The UFC 319 card just wrapped up. An absolutely great card altogether. Even though the main event wasn't that exciting, I think with all the other performances, it upped the performative quality of this card. This card has some of the most insane finishes, both from a technical aspect to a narrative aspect. Like Kai Asakura getting subbed for the second time, winless in the UFC, to Baisangur getting his second finish in a span of 4 days. Joseph Morales winning the Ultimate Fighter with a performance like that was absolutely amazing. And of course, with spinning elbow knockouts, I think this card was like a 7 out of 10. If the main event was better, it'd be like an 8 or 9 out of 10. Oh, and as for my picks, I got 6 out of 12 correct. Now, although that is a coin flip, I did get some big underdogs in this card. Lerone Murphy winning against Aaron Pico, Tim Elliott versus Kai Asakura, and of course I got the main event correct as well. But overall, not my best card for sure. But starting with the main event, the piano missed, and Khamzat Chimaev dominated Dricus Du Plessis throughout 5 rounds. One of the most one-sided championship fights we've ever seen. But we do have to be honest, Khamzat didn't really inflict that much damage. It was a lot of good positional control and control time that depicted the fight being so one-sided. And how good is Kamaru Usman? He came off the couch and gave Khamzat a tougher fight than the middleweight champion did. And Burns was the toughest fight so far. Are the welterweights just better than the middleweights? There was a lot of MMA math going into this fight. A lot of people were saying that Khamzat can't fight Dricus because he had a tough fight with Burns. And Burns is a lightweight. But that's skipping over that styles make fights. Hopefully now Burns gets the respect that he deserves, because that guy's grappling is the only one that Khamzat has respected. He just dominated Dricus like it was nothing. I said it before in my breakdown of Dricus' wrestling. He just hasn't fought many wrestlers. The best he fought was Derek Brunson, and he's nothing close to Khamzat at all. And I was also talking about how Dricus' stance is so unbalanced. It's not sturdy enough to fight against a wrestler, and this fight proved it. Later in the fight when they got more slippery, he was able to slip out of shots, but he couldn't defend the chain wrestling. The follow-up shots became so much more difficult for him, and it just seems like Dricus didn't know how to fight against it. Even though he had a game plan, even though he had a good camp behind him, he had almost no answers for the wrestling at all. His takedown defensive rate has gotten nuked by Khamzat Chimaev. Whatever it was before, it's probably at like 40% now, because he just hasn't fought a lot of wrestlers. Yeah, it's at 50%. Khamzat got 12 takedowns on him. Now Dricus' takedown defense is 50%. That's crazy. What's also crazy is Khamzat landed 37 significant strikes throughout 5 rounds, and Dricus landed 13. You look at the total strikes, and Khamzat landed 529. That has to be the most in UFC history for a single fight, although most of that were just tapping shots, not really causing any damage. But to get put into the crucifix position multiple times in a fight, it just shows a wide margin of domination. Getting a crucifix one time is a sign of temporary domination. But when you do it multiple times throughout a fight, Khamzat's wrestling is a skill to behold. Like, it's insanely good. And as I said before, I don't think there's a single middleweight that beats this guy. If he can get through Dricus, there's nobody beating him. And he got through Dricus pretty easily. Now you have to give, and man, Dricus deserves so much respect, because Khamzat went for rear naked chokes. He fought for dominant positions and went for some submissions, but Dricus defended every single one of them. I think most other fighters would not have fought off the rear naked chokes as much as he did. So not too much to say. Every round was pretty much the same thing, with slightly more damage in one round over another, but it was mostly just Khamzat getting a quick takedown in the beginning of the round. Dricus not able to defend it, and if he does defend the first shot in the later rounds, he couldn't defend the chain wrestling. There wasn't that much stand-up, pretty much just a wrestling clinic, and Khamzat is now the new middleweight champion. It's going to be very interesting how his next opponents fare against him. So I think he should fight the winner of Nasruddin Imavov versus Caio Borralho. And it was really cool. They had all those middleweight contenders watching from the crowd. Reinier de Ridder, Caio Borralho, Anthony Hernandez. But I believe we're going to see a Chechen versus Dagestani fight for the middleweight title next. I think Imavov is going to beat Borralho. As for Dricus Du Plessis, you already know what the next fight is for him. The perfect fight is Reinier de Ridder, man. It's destined. These two are supposed to clash, and we could finally have it. The goofiest fight in UFC history. And Lerone Murphy knocks out Aaron Pico with a spinning back elbow. Lightning struck twice on this card. 2 spinning back elbow knockouts is crazy. And he derailed the hype train. Bellator is done. The industry plant has yet again been defeated. Every time the UFC is trying to build up the next star, forcing him into these big fights, they eventually lose. And I feel for Aaron Pico. He seems like a good guy. He's very professional, and he had high hopes for the UFC. Fighting Lerone Murphy in his debut was a mistake. Now, even though I thought Murphy was going to win, I did not think he would knock him out. I thought he'd point fight, stay on the outside, clinch up on the aggression, neutralize the fight as much as he could. But I have to retract the Leon Edwards comparison. I mean, Leon did have the head kick, so they both have this highlight reel knockout. But as of right now, Murphy might be different. We'll see. Might be recency bias. But Aaron Pico put himself in that position. He sidestepped like he was TJ Dillashaw or something. I mean, I think he was training way too much with TJ. Not a lot of fighters can pull off moves like that. And Murphy timed it perfectly on that sidestep to spin with the elbow, KOing him. With all the aggression that Pico puts forward, it essentially forced Murphy into a fight that he's not used to. There was so much pressure, so much power thrown from Pico. Murphy had to respond with his own. He had to, or he was going to get bulldozed. He was going to get bullied out there if he didn't. There wasn't even that much space between them the entire fight. Even when Pico was pressuring, there was like maybe 2 to 3 feet of space, keeping him on edge to throw in the knee that landed, to throw that one short elbow landing perfectly, and then the spinning back elbow as well. Elbows and knees from Murphy. What an insane performance. Does he get a title shot? Well, he called out Volkanovski. I don't think he gets it though, because there is that one fight looming between Diego Lopez and John Silva. But I think it sets it up perfectly. A fight between Lerone Murphy and the winner of Lopez and Silva. Evloev has to get the next title shot. He's the #1 contender. And in the meantime, as Volkan Evloev fight, let's get the next #1 contender established between Murphy and the winner of Lopez and Silva. That's absolutely the next fight. And as for Aaron Pico, too much too quick for him, man. I think he should fight someone like Dan Ige or Giga Shikadze, a fighter like that, where they have weaknesses that he can work through. Lerone Murphy is a very well-rounded fighter. He doesn't actually have a lot of weaknesses, other than his power. He doesn't usually utilize his power as much. Here he did, right? It's a very different performance from him. But Giga Shikadze, for an example, doesn't have the best cardio. He's more of a kicker. If Aaron Pico's able to stay in close, he could have a lot of success, and he has the wrestling advantage. I think it's a better fight for Aaron Pico next, but he's going to take some time off from the knockout loss. And what a stellar performance by Carlos Prates, man. Absolutely annihilated Geoff Neal. He got hit by some left hands. Showed his toughness, just like he did in the Ian Gary fight. Took some big shots there as well, but he got better. Improved from the Gary fight. And this time was more so fighting on the back foot. You don't see that a lot throughout his fights. Usually he's the one that's pressuring, but Geoff Neal initially came out there assertive, walked forward, landing some left hands, but Prates showed that he is capable, even with an elongated back foot approach, landing body shots with his left, body knees as well, slinging those left hands over the top. Every punch this guy catapults has knockout potential. Every single time. It's insane. And Neal showed his toughness, but he couldn't withstand that hailstorm. Eventually, a spinning elbow landed across the temple and knocked him out with a second left of the round. The sound was so loud. He may have cracked his skull. I hope he's okay. I hope he didn't have any dangerous injuries there, but the way that Geoff Neal fell is something we've never seen happen in his career before. The elbow echoed throughout the arena. Walk-off KO for Carlos Prates. The only way that performance could have been perfect is if he just didn't get hit as much as he did. That was literally it. His offense was perfect. Like, everything he was throwing. The punches to the head were landing, the body shots were landing, setting up his punches off his body knee, even with the amount of power he thrust with that knee. It's impressive how he's able to follow up with it so seamlessly, because usually a setup shot has power taken off of it. He's able to commit with the power, even with the setups, to follow up with more precise shots. I was thinking maybe from the Ian Gary fight that perhaps he's not going to be as great. He could have declined or not improved as drastically as he did, but the man has learned from that experience against Ian Gary, and also brings up the question, how good is Ian Gary? Because he survived against that monster for 5 rounds. He almost got finished in the 5th round, and I think Prates could have finished him. But the other thing I liked from Prates as well was the way he shifted from his evasive approach to his pressure approach, because there was a shift about 2 minutes left of the round. Prates was the one that was moving forward. And that right there shows that Geoff Neal was withering. There was too many power shots landing to his body and head. He was trying to withstand it all. He was still landing some good shots here and there, but most of his best work came from the beginning of the round. But it was evident that the power difference was way too vast between these two guys. And the man made of steel got crushed. The worst loss Geoff Neal's ever had in his career. We've never seen him get dropped the way he did. That knockout is going to be on every highlight reel of Carlos Prates moving forward. If he ever fights for a belt, if he's the main event of a fight night again, or he's on the pay-per-view, they're going to be showing that knockout for the rest of his career. Such an amazing performance, man. I think he should fight MVP. So he's ranked number 12. MVP's number 15. I think stylistically that is the best fight you could possibly make. I think these two are 2 of the better strikers of the division. And it's more of the sake of MVP, because who else is he going to fight at welterweight? Everybody else will take him down. Stylistically, the best next matchup for him would actually be Jack Della Maddalena, but he's not getting that fight. Everybody else above him can wrestle, except Geoff Neal and Carlos Prates, but they're not going to give him Geoff Neal after losing, right? I mean, they could give him Daniel Rodriguez, but I think it's an easy fight for MVP. I want to see Prates versus MVP, man. That's the fight to make. And as for Geoff Neal, he's probably not going to fight for a while. If he returns in the current layout of the rankings, him versus Gabriel Bonfim would be a good fight, but Geoff Neal's about to be used as a stepping stone for a lot of these rising contenders. Because I can imagine him fighting someone like Bonfim or someone who's outside the rankings that is on the come up. And this is a guy that a lot of people thought would be a top contender or even potentially fighting for a title. And now it just seems like the welterweight division has surpassed him. Bro, his last 5 wins are RDA, Vicente Luque, Santiago Ponzinibbio, Mike Perry, and Nico Price. None of them are really that relevant anymore in the UFC. Mike Perry's still killing it in the Burger King fighting championships. Mike Perry is the king over there, and it's crazy he beat Michael Venom Page in a bare knuckle boxing match. That's so crazy. But Neal's wins honestly aren't that great. I mean, he beat Bilal Muhammad before all those 5 wins, but that's his only win to glory at this point. It's a huge glorifying win, but the rest of them, they're just not as relevant anymore. And it seems like Geoff Neal is following the trajectory of those fighters too. If he is fighting anybody in the rankings, potentially I would like to see him fight Gabriel Bonfim, but if not, we'll see how the rankings shifts by the time he returns. And Michael Venom Page defeats Jared Cannonier by unanimous decision, 29-28 across the scorecards. His striking was just levels above Cannonier's. Way too fast from a welterweight fighting in the middleweight division, and was leading the dance the entire time, even though he was fighting off the back foot. Very impressive skill set to be able to do that against someone like Cannonier. We've seen only one other fighter do it as effectively as Michael Venom Page did, and that was Israel Adesanya, who I think should be the next opponent. I mean, Izzy versus MVP is a dreamlike fight that I absolutely would love to see, but they're friends. They're not going to fight each other. There's too many friends in the sport. Too many fighters at the top are just unwilling to fight each other. It is to the disinterest of fans, but it is what it is, I guess. And I thought Cannonier's wrestling was going to be a lot more dominant than it actually was. MVP had good takedown defense, especially in that second round. Resisting on the fence, he got taken down for a brief moment, but then was able to pop up to his feet very easily. And the only time Cannonier had an immense amount of success with his wrestling was in the third round. And that was because MVP got more aggressive. Perhaps the pressure from the audience wanting more action caused MVP to get out of his game slightly into the realm of Cannonier's skill set, ultimately making the counter takedown way more effective for Cannonier. He stayed on top, and as MVP said in the post-fight interview, the guy was way too strong to budge off. But man, the output in the ground and pound just wasn't really there. Cannonier didn't really posture up, even in moments where he could have. It looked like he just tried to advance to get a better submission, but it wasn't enough. I mean, he went for the arm triangle, passing while using that, and then while in half guard, he went for the Kimura, he went for an arm triangle again, and he just wasted so much time instead of simply posturing and unleashing the elbows like he did late in the round. That was amazing work from Cannonier. If there was only more of that, he could have potentially achieved that 10-8 round that he was looking for, or a potential finish. I don't think he would have finished MVP, but he definitely needed to make something work, and the urgency wasn't there until like the last 20 seconds of that fight or whatever it was. It was like 20 or 30 seconds. That's where he started letting the hammers fly and the elbows drop, but it was just too late. And also with Cannonier striking, he put so much excessive output into his headhunting instead of attacking the legs. By chopping out the base, it makes MVP's movement a lot slower, but it seemed like he may have been discouraged when he got dropped in the first round because he did throw an inside leg kick. Didn't really set it up at all actually, but he got hit by the right hand, dropped because of it, and it became way more hesitant to throw more leg kicks after that. But he fixed it in the second round. He found a solution by simply just setting up off his jabs. Just a few jabs, he'll either throw them in single numbers or double up and then slam the leg kick after, and they were actually working. He just didn't throw them enough. That was the main loss of Cannonier in this one. Just not enough work with his advantages. And ultimately fought MVP's game for way too much of that. I mean, he was swinging some combinations and at one point swung some haymakers. His coaches told him to go to the body, I believe, but as soon as he targeted the body, MVP was still way too elusive. You have to target his legs. That is his main defensive weakness there. It's what Douglas Lima showed years ago that worked, and it's still something that could work even now. The only thing is he pounces on you with that swift right hand across the entire octagon, massive reach, and he lunges with his punches. Very different than most other fighters that Cannonier has ever fought against. Even Adesanya doesn't throw punches like that. That is the only danger when you're fighting MVP and throwing leg kicks. But again, just set him up off your punches and they work beautifully, as shown in the second round with Cannonier. But it's a great performance from MVP. Now he is top 10 in the middleweight division as well. He just beat the number 9 ranked. And again, this is just a side quest for him. This is not necessarily a main goal of his. Just like he said in the post-fight interview, he will go up to middleweight for these interesting fights. But his home is at welterweight. That's where he wants to belong. He's like in an MMO where you do more side quests than the main quest, top 10 in middleweight. And I think the matchups in middleweight are better for him stylistically because there are more strikers he can go up against, like Robert Whittaker, Israel Adesanya. I wish they would fight. That is the fight to make. And it's a bummer because even in the welterweight division, he's not going to fight Stephen Thompson. Like the two most anticipated fights for MVP, those are the two fights he's just not willing to take, and those potential opponents are also not willing to take. So if he goes to welterweight, he might be fighting Gilbert Burns or Joaquin Buckley or various other fighters that will take him to the ground. In the middleweight division, there's Sean Strickland, Israel Adesanya, Robert Whittaker. These fighters are not going to take him to the ground. And two of those guys are in the top 5. Strickland and Adesanya are both top 5, and he could potentially have a very good fight with them. So for their next opponents, MVP wants to go to welterweight. So I honestly think he should fight Carlos Prates. And as for Jared Cannonier, so that's only one loss. He's not on some loss streak or anything like that. He beat Gregor Rodriguez, who was built up to surpass him, use him as a stepping stone. So perhaps they could do Cannonier versus Paulo Costa. I think that's a actually perfect fight. I think there's no better fight for Cannonier than that, at least in my opinion. And then Tim Elliott defeats Kai Asakura by a second round submission. I almost called this perfectly. These non-UFC fighters really aren't performing, man. And it makes the win for Pantoja against Asakura not look so great. Him and Tim Elliott submitted him in the second round. It just goes to show what was Kai Asakura thinking coming to the UFC with no ground game. He has no grappling to him at all. He could defend a takedown based off his footwork, but that's pretty much it. He's got good striking, but that's essentially what got him taken down in the first place. He got way too aggressive, which was a change in his approach. Elliott timed it perfectly, got the takedown, sunk in the mounted guillotine, and the fight was over. Asakura came into the UFC as a potential Japanese star, and he's getting washed by everybody he fights. It's another blunder from the UFC's industry plans. When will they learn? Just have them rise naturally. Don't thrust them into title fights for their debuts and all this sort of stuff. Because now look, we know Kai Asakura isn't even on Tim Elliott's level. And Tim Elliott's a good fighter, but he's not even in the top 10. It's wild how much better Manel Kape got because him and Asakura beat each other, but Kape soared way past this guy. Like, they're not even in the same realm of potential. And I like Kai Asakura, but he was so insanely overhyped. Like, I did not think he was going to beat Tim Elliott. His grappling just isn't there, but solid win from Tim Elliott. I'd like to see him fight Steve Erceg. That'd be a good fight. Both guys coming off a win. And as for Kai Asakura, I mean, I can only imagine he's not going to be ranked after that. I don't know who they give him, but it should be someone who's not ranked. And honestly, this puts a lot of eyes on Kyoji Horiguchi. Let's see how he performs on his return to the UFC, because him and Asakura were rivals at Rizin. That might be telling as to how much better the flyweight division has gotten if Horiguchi cannot beat the best of today, because he was one of the best when DJ was in his prime. And then Baisangur Susurkaev defeats Eric Nolon in the second round by submission. Saved by the bell, it seemed like. Nolon rocked him with the right hook, put together a combination, and was going for the finish. Spinning back fist, knee to the body. But no matter what this guy gets hit by, he's always having a good time, smiling in your face. That could be discouraging. You hit this guy with all you can and he just laughs it off, even as he's doing the chicken dance. But Nolon had no takedown defense, no leg kicking defense. The inside of his leg was absolutely torched. And then he sold the fight by rolling for the leg lock, which led to a dominating second round from Baisangur, getting his back and choking him out. It's a great win for Baisangur. The guy literally fought 4 days ago. And both of those fights combined did not even total up to 3 rounds. And then GM3 got smoked by Oleksiejczuk. The power wasn't there, the speed wasn't there, the strength wasn't there, nothing was there. It's like GM3 was like a shell of himself. He didn't see a single one of those left hands. Diving for takedowns from 2 miles away, then just to pull guard, and of course Oleksiejczuk is not going to go to the ground with him. He's got to hang it up, man. I agree with Dana. Gerald Meerschaert just doesn't seem like he's the same fighter. Our king GM3. He's not the same fighter anymore. It's a big win for Oleksiejczuk, man. It's one of his biggest wins of his career. He's now on a 2-fight win streak, both first-round knockouts. Meerschaert lost his last 3 fights, and you can only imagine one more loss and he'd be cut if he's not cut already. And that's another win for the fighting nerds. And the Loopy Godinez defeats Jessica Andrade by a decision. It was a close fight. Some people think Andrade won. Some people think this is a fight that could have been a draw. Godinez laying some good shots in the first round, strung good combinations. Second round, she had a good takedown, and just more of the same throughout the fight. And Andrade swinging haymakers like she usually does. Always puts on an exciting fight, and Godinez on the back foot trying to counter. Displayed decent footwork too. Cannot stand still directly in front of Andrade. And then Alexander Hernandez floors Chase Hooper and wins via early stoppage in the first round. Jason Herzog, man, he used to be the golden standard, I thought, but he's stopping a lot of these early now. And the real frustrating part of it was there was only 2 seconds left. I think Hooper could have survived, got into the next round, and potentially had a comeback. Alexander Hernandez looked good out there. He was moving very well away from the strikes of Hooper. Hooper constantly was throwing that left kick to the body and trying to follow up with punches, but Hernandez had way better footwork off the angle or out of range for a lot of that. Seemed to be the much faster and stronger fighter in there. Then Hooper reached in with the left straight. Hernandez countered with his right, dropped him, and finished the fight. But that's a third win in a row for Hernandez. Perhaps one more win and he fights someone in the rankings. And the Drakkar Klose took out another one of our kings. First GM3 and now Edson Barboza. Barboza looked like a shell of himself too. His switch kick is still faster than his punches somehow. That is so crazy. But Drakkar Klose was just landing darting right hands from distance, and at one point, he was playing ping pong with his head against the fence. It looked like he knocked him out and woke him up a few times against the fence with that combo. And yeah, just a good performance from Drakkar Klose. Then Karine Silva defeats Dione Barboza by a decision. Mildly debated fight, where a lot of people thought that Barboza was robbed and she should have won because of her wrestling and top control. And although Karine Silva's take to defense yet again shows to be non-existent, she did land a lot of strikes off her back. In the third round, she went for the ninja choke. I think it should have been a Karine Silva win for sure. First round went to Barboza, second and third go to Silva. And then Joseph Morales defeats Alibi Idiris in the second round by submission. This fight was a lot more dominant than I expected it to be. I thought that Idiris was going to win the fight, and I thought his wrestling would be stronger than it was. But Morales out-scrambled him, beat him in the striking, took him to the ground, got his back. That one reversal using the Kimura to get the back was high-level stuff. But then crowded him in the second round, landing right hands to the body. Just a dominating performance by Joseph Morales, winning the Ultimate Fighter for the flyweight division and getting another W in the undefeated column of the GOAT Chael Sonnen. And that is the UFC 319 card. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave in the comments below what your guys' favorite fights were, favorite finish, and I'll see you guys in the next video.